Hey, what's going on, everybody? Martino here from Extract Media. Today, I'm giving my picks for the top 10 best movies of 2022. These are all my personal opinion, guys. It's all subjective, nobody at me or anything. I mean, come on. It's all just an opinion, just as I'm sure you have your own personal top 10 favorite movies of 2022. Here we go. I'm going to give out my picks. I'm going to start with some honorable mentions here. It was a big year. So my honorable mentions for 2022 are Nope, Avatar: The Way of Water, Top Gun: Maverick, The Menu, and The Fallout. These were all great picks that I really wanted to be in my top 10, but I just unfortunately couldn't find room for them. But I recommend all of those movies highly. They are all just so fantastic. Now let's get into my top 10 of 2022. Here we go. Number 10 was Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. I thought this film was such a great sequel to the first. They had a big task trying to move on without their lead star and do a sequel that felt consistent with the first. It was also just the best movie of MCU's Phase 4. I thought Ryan Coogler did a magnificent job directing this as he did the first Black Panther. I loved this film so much, and it was so powerful. The ending really had me choked up. I really loved this movie. It was visually stunning throughout. The score from Ludwig Göransson, I can't praise enough, so there's that. Number 9 is Pearl. Pearl was a movie that shocked the hell out of me. It was a prequel to the movie X, which came out in the same year, and Mia Goth stars in this, and it was such a magnificent performance from Mia Goth. I mean, she stunned the hell out of me in this film. The way that Ty West shot the film like a Wizard of Oz style horror film was incredible. It was so artsy, so well performed, so disturbing, so visceral, and I was just so blown away by this movie. I hadn't seen a horror movie like it in my life, and I really love this film for it. Number 8 is The Whale. This one is directed by Darren Aronofsky. This movie blew me away. I love the work he did here. I'm a huge fan of Darren Aronofsky, and this is pretty consistent with his work and also kind of inconsistent with his work. This one's a little less bizarre and a lot more straightforward. It's still a powerful film like all of his others, but this one just has a real straightforward, dramatic story, and Brendan Fraser's performance is amazing in this thing, and he knocks it out of the park. I also love the work that Hong Chow did for this film. They both got nominated for Academy Awards this year, and this movie was just awesome to me. So powerful, such a great drama. I highly recommend The Whale if you haven't watched it yet. Number 7 is Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. Guys, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio is very consistent with the rest of Guillermo del Toro's work, but inconsistent again because it's an animated film, which all of his other films were not. But Robert Zemeckis had an adaptation of Pinocchio early on in the year, and it wasn't nearly as good as what Guillermo del Toro did here. It was masterful. It was such a breath of fresh air after watching that not so good Pinocchio film. This movie is just so stunning to look at too. The cast for this film is unbelievable. I mean, the performances are great, especially for an animated film. It's some of the best performances I've seen in an animated movie. I highly recommend Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. It is amazing. If you're a Guillermo del Toro fan, this is for you. Number 6 is Glass Onion: A Knives Out Mystery. I thought this film was incredibly smart and clever. Rian Johnson has done it again. I really loved his work on Knives Out, but he directed a film here that was, to me anyway, even more clever, even more smart, something different from what its first one was, which I really enjoyed, even though it kept the Benoit Blanc character in it. I just think Daniel Craig is expanding on this character in such great ways, as long as the movie is as well, because honestly, the movie is giving Benoit so much more to do than I thought he had in the first one, which I really loved. And Daniel Craig is very consistent with that, but the movie just has such a great cast. Kate Hudson, Edward Norton, Janelle Monáe was amazing in this film. I mean, everybody, this ensemble is incredible. Dave Bautista, Catherine Hahn, I can go on all day. And it really is a Agatha Christie inspired whodunit. I highly recommend this movie. I just thought it was so incredibly clever. I was so impressed with the script that Ryan wrote for it and how it just left no loose ends by the end of it. And I loved how unpredictable this movie was at every turn. So this is such a great film, and it's so much fun to watch. Highly recommend. My number 5 is Everything Everywhere All at Once. I was so excited to see what the Daniels would do after seeing Swiss Army Man. I thought that film was just unbelievable, and this film was even more unbelievable. This ending hit me so much. I thought the performances were great from Michelle Yeoh, Ki Hai Kwan, who I hadn't seen since I was a kid, so I love seeing him back in something. He actually took a break from acting and then came back with this, and what a comeback story that is. He did so well in this movie. Stephanie Hsu is great in this. Everybody's so good in this film. Michelle, Key, and Stephanie all are nominated for Oscars this year. I'm so happy to see it. I loved this movie. I just thought it was so incredibly original and something that I'll never forget, honestly. Okay, number 4, I'm very excited to talk about. Number 4 is The Batman. I was very curious to see what Matt Reeves would do directing a Batman film, especially with Robert Pattinson at the helm starring in it. It's my favorite Batman movie, honestly, and I never thought I'd say that, but it's such a cool and interesting take on the Batman, honestly, and one to me that's consistent with the comic books I loved. I loved seeing the detective aspects back into Batman in this film. I thought that was such a huge plus for this movie, how dark it is. It's gritty. It feels very grounded. I loved seeing everything the rest of the cast did. Zoe Kravitz is my new favorite Catwoman. Colin Farrell is such an amazing Penguin. I really loved Andy Serkis as Alfred, and Robert Pattinson's my new favorite Batman. So this movie just has a lot going for it. I really enjoyed this movie. I cannot recommend it enough. If you guys like real good like detective thrillers like Seven, Zodiac, things of that nature, I can't recommend this one enough to you. This movie was amazing and it's so freaking good. I love it. I can't wait to watch it again here pretty soon. All right, my number 3 is a huge surprise. My number 3 was Elvis. Man, did I love Elvis. I'm a huge fan of Baz Luhrmann as a director in general, but I think that this is his best film to date, honestly. The work that Austin Butler did playing Elvis, oh my gosh, at the time it was my favorite performance of the year, and I really loved everything he did in this movie. It is incredible. Tom Hanks is so unbelievable as the Colonel in this film as well. It's amazing, this movie. It's such a unique musical biopic. Baz Luhrmann stays consistent with the way that he does all of his films with this one, and it just worked for Elvis. You could just tell this guy understands Elvis. This movie was incredible. It made me appreciate Elvis Presley a lot more than I ever thought I would. I can't recommend Elvis to you guys enough. If you haven't seen it yet, please go see it or watch it at home now. It's so good and it's amazing. My number 2 is a movie that I didn't think would be on my list when I'd initially seen the trailers, but the trailers obviously intrigued me enough to check out the film, so that boded well for it. And that's Selena Gomez, My Mind and Me. I usually don't have documentaries on my top 10 of the year, but this year just had a lot of documentaries coming out, so one was bound to end up on my list, honestly. Selena Gomez, My Mind and Me is so well done, and it is just perfection. If you haven't seen it, it's such a great statement on fame, and I like that this documentary doesn't pull any punches. It's showing you very real footage that you haven't seen before from anybody with the clout of Selena Gomez. I mean, this is pretty raw stuff. The documentary ultimately just moved me as a human and really made me rethink the whole idea of fame in general, and that's why I really love this film. And there's just no flaws with it. It's just a masterpiece of a documentary, honestly, and I really enjoyed all the work that was put into it. I love the cinematics that they used. I thought it was cut together extremely well. If you guys haven't seen Selena Gomez, My Mind and Me, obviously it's all going to be subjective, but for me, it's one of the most powerful and moving documentaries I've seen in a long time. So I highly recommend it to all of you. And my number 1 film of 2022 is going to be The Fabelmans, and Steven Spielberg has done it again. He is the greatest filmmaker of all time as far as I'm concerned, and this guy, wow, just stunned the crap out of me once again with this movie. And actually, this is his best movie I've seen in years, and I mean that 100% because this movie is very personal to him, and you can really feel that. This obviously documents like pretty much his childhood. It's kind of a loose adaptation on his childhood and growing up loving film. It's a movie that was made for people who love movies, so this spoke to me big time, and I really related to a lot of the things that were going on, a lot of the sentiments that Steven put into this movie. I thought this was an absolutely beautiful film. It's got a final scene that will keep me thinking forever, and it's something I will remember for the rest of my life, and I will never be able to unthink when watching any movie in the future again. And it was so brilliant and beautiful and amazing, and I really loved all the dedication that went into this film from Steven Spielberg. He put his entire heart into it. The performances all around are so fantastic. I mean, there's not one bad performer in this movie. It's so well put together. The score from John Williams, by golly, is incredible. And this will probably be the last time John Williams ever does music for a Steven Spielberg directed film, and that hit me very personally as well. And I love that Steven kind of went out with the bang with the last one that John Williams will be working on. This movie was so beautiful. I was so stunned by it, and just the story and how personally it hit me. I'm not saying it's going to be that way for everybody, but if you're you're somebody who loves movies, watch this movie. It was so personal to me, and I could see how personal it was to Spielberg. I was so happy with this movie and just thought it was flawless. It's an absolute masterpiece of a film. Another one I just can't praise enough. But that's my list of the top 10 films of 2022. I want to hear your guys' list. I always do this before the Oscars come up, so I'm not like everybody else where they do it at the end of the year. It gives me a little bit more time to catch up on all the movies from 2022, so I really like to do it then. Were there movies from this list that you also loved as well, and also will you be watching any of these because of this recommendation? I would love to hear that as well, and I would love to have a conversation with you guys about these. All right, guys, I thank you so much for joining. Before I get out of here, please hit the like button below, subscribe to the channel, leave some feedback in the comment section, share this with your friends, and hit the bell for notifications. Once again, I am Martino, and I will talk to you guys later.